Today on the Extreme Channel, we are looking at a T1000 life-size bust from Pure Arts. And I am so excited about this for so many different reasons. You know, Terminator 2 was one of the first R-rated movies I saw in the theaters back in the early 90s. And I loved it. Not just because it introduced an amazing villain that had amazing abilities, showed us some CGI stuff we've never seen before, was a follow-up to one of my original favorite movies, the first Terminator from 1984. We saw one of the best cinematic female heroines in history. Did I say heroine? But I loved it because she dropped the F-bomb like every other word. And Robert Patrick gave everybody the finger. See what I did there? As the Extreme Channel is pushing towards 50,000 subscribers, these are just a few of the statues we are giving away on the journey there. If you want to know how to win one, stay tuned for later in the video. Hey everybody, I'm Mr. X, and today we're going to review this life-size bust from Pure Arts. I was a little hesitant on this, but now that I have it in hand, I'm not hesitant at all. This is a fantastic piece. I love Terminator. I've owned a ton of different Terminator pieces in the past, and to date, I think this is the only one I still own. It's also by Pure Arts, and that's where I'm going to display this right next to the T800 there. So anyway, this is from Terminator 2, which like I said was such a quintessential movie from special effects. I mean, it almost seems like James Cameron can't do any wrong. And this represents the villain, which what I also loved about that movie is we thought he was the good guy. We didn't even know he was a robot for the longest time. So it was just a fantastic movie. I think it still holds up today. And now I have this iconic statue of him in his liquid metal form. I'm not even going to try and pronounce the actual proper name for it.
Yes, a mimetic polyalloy.
But T1000 here was a robot sent back from the future to kill leader of the human resistance, John Connor. And Arnold Schwarzenegger, another machine not as advanced as him, was protecting John Connor. And if you didn't know any of that and you're still watching, then you need to go watch those movies. At least the first two, they're absolutely fantastic. So I got this from Pure Arts. Like I said, it's a life-size bust. Now what's really cool about this, they actually have 3 or 4 different options of this particular guy. And I'm going to tell you more about that later. There is a link in the description where you can pick him up from Pure Arts or Sideshow. But let's start with the traditional review. This is the liquid metal version. This is the deluxe version. So while the different options do change the concept a little bit, and so do some of the display options that all of them have we're going to talk about, let's start with this. I chose the liquid metal version, and I'll show you pictures of the other one later because it's all blurred together, because that's what he was. He was made of liquid metal. He was polymorphic. He could change his shape to almost anything of equal size without complex moving parts. And you see a bunch of that. You see a bunch of liquid goo or metal or whatever that is. You see a lot of the humanoid features, whether it's part of his outfit or it's his face or hand. Now, I do have to apologize. Anytime I have anything in chrome, it is incredibly difficult to show under good lighting. So unfortunately, that's a little bit of an issue here, but I will show you during close-up video paint and sculpt. And even on the back, there's some cool stuff going on. And if you're not a follower of the movie or don't remember it, he has a huge bullet hole in his head because he constantly got bullet holes and then he would just self-heal them. But this is absolutely amazing concept. And there's some design stuff I really want to talk about because I think it adds to the concept. We're going to keep that in the design category. I still think it's a solid 4 out of 5. Some of that may be because of the design stuff. Now, there's one fault with the design, I'll tell you right away. He's a little bit small.
Hey, that's what she said.
I still think he is life-size. I put his hand next to mine. It's a little bit smaller. Obviously, his shoulders, they only have part of it, but his portrait is about the same size. Now, whenever I have a life-size bust on the table, people always say it looks really big. Well, it's closer to you. The camera's only about 4.5 feet away, and he's about a foot closer, so that's perspective. But dimensions, he is actually, the widest part of his shoulders is 13 inches. The deepest part is 11, where it comes out here. And then the tallest part is just under 17 inches. For exact dimensions, check out those links in the description of this video. Now, I'm not going to show you the assembly because there are just 3 parts plus the authenticity card, but here's the unboxing. Pretty manageable outer box, which helps with the shipping costs, of course. Now, they did have an art box, and I'm going to show you every side. I typically don't do this, but that's the top, obviously from T2, and then it shows that it's a 1:1 scale art mask, is what they call it, even though I call it a bust. Then on each side, they have a few different pictures of the actual bust and the different details. I think that's pretty neat. And then the instructions. So instructions on the front and back, which really aren't needed, but it's nice to have because we'll talk more about that in display options. Pure Arts uses straps instead of tape, which is always nice. The first layer, there's only one essential layer, but first you remove his face, and then you have the base and the finger and the COA. All right, so on top of the 3 parts of T1000, now that's his face. It actually comes off, and we're going to talk about why. And then, of course, his hand or finger comes off. Now, because it's chrome, you do want to use gloves on it. They don't supply any gloves, but the hand is actually magnetized. It's a very strong magnet, comes off very easy. I like that. The head is a key and a peg. So here's a picture of another key, which we'll talk about why we have that in a second. So other than those 3 pieces, you have the authenticity card, the authenticity stand, and you have some instructions, pretty detailed instructions, and a screws landmark. The reason for that is just like the T800, this is actually wall mountable. Now that's on the bottom here. So obviously if you mounted it as is, he would be facing down. So because of that, you can move the head just like that T800 review. Now, if you want to see what he looks like mounted on the wall, because that's where I'm going to put him, check out the Extreme Channel's social media, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. There's a link for that in the description as well. I will show pictures of him right next to the T800. Here's your display options. You can display him just like this. You can remove the hand completely, and it's still kind of a metal glob down there, so you can't even tell that it's missing. So if you get the regular version, which we'll talk about in a little bit, it's fine. And I failed to get a picture before I put him on the wall, but you can adjust the hand a little bit so it's pointing out. I don't really like this, but it is an option as well. With that, there are other options, but not with this one. Like I said, this one is just liquid metal. There is one where he has a lot more normal color, human skin, part of the blue uniform, and we'll look at that when we look at value of this piece. I chose the liquid metal because I'm going to mount him to the wall, and I want him truly coming out of the wall. And if he was coming out of the wall, he would most likely be in full liquid metal form. So I think the design is great. I love that they do that. I think the design's a 5 out of 5. Really ingenious, a great way for a bust. Saves a space, looks really cool actually coming out of the wall, or at least I hope it does. Again, check out the social media. Paint and sculpt. This one's a little difficult because the paint is chrome, very shiny chrome. The one exception, obviously, is the blood that they added to the finger, which we'll talk about. Which, let's look at some video and talk about the paint and sculpt. So I turned off the spotlights for this. You'll still see a lot of reflection from the cam lights, the white cam lights in the ceiling. But the COA card, it does have a thin plastic material on it. I don't take off because I put this right back in the box. But it is neat. Number 48 has some holograms in there. Obviously, the statue itself. Now, the glob on the ground, I really like that, how it's kind of melding into him. So that's not really any definition in there other than like what liquid metal would look like. But his police uniform is fantastic. So you see the badge. 572, which is movie accurate, Los Angeles police officer, and it is protruding, so there's an actual 3D badge to it, not only the badge itself, but parts of the badge. And I think that's a pretty cool feature. Now, his jacket has this micro detail on it, this texturized pattern, and then you kind of see the shoulder pad and the button right there. I love all of that. I think it's great. Underneath at the back, more of that liquid flowing effect. It almost looks like it's moving with the chrome. I think that's pretty impressive in my opinion. Then right here, they have an Easter egg. It's one of his hooks. So his hook is melding back on. It's right down here. That is, we didn't really talk about that during concept, but I think that's a pretty neat Easter egg. And then here, I don't have gloves, so I don't want to remove it, but his hand to kind of give you scale. And then as the finger moves up, the splattered blood looks really good. I've owned another Pure Arts life size. It was the Liquor, and I thought that was fantastic as well. I love the bullet holes right here. So there's so much detail. You can see where the bullet went in, and then the hole gets bigger as it's healing. Same with that one up there. And then even the collar on his shirt. And then very smooth up here. You can actually see me in the reflection. Now you're going to have a hard time not looking at that, aren't you? But, man, it makes me look great like a house of mirrors. But he looks fantastic. I think there's great definition. It's obviously Robert Patrick. You can even see his eyebrows forming. His classic haircut that they had used so much hair gel during the movie because it never moved. And then the inside back here looks great as well. I mean, you really won't even see that, but I like how they did that. They could have just done it smooth, but they decided to kind of go above and beyond. And I think this chrome is absolutely fantastic. It's not too dull. It is very shiny and bright, but I think that really helps with the character. This is really hard to get on camera, how good it really looks. So I think for that reason, I could see people going with the painted version, but for me, it's this version all the way. Really impressed what they did. Great job, Pure Arts, on both the paint and the sculpt. As I said, I got this one also because I think the likeness is probably better because it's easier to do since it's all chrome, but I think the paint is fantastic. I'm really glad it's the shiny. I think if it was too dull, it just wouldn't have worked. And I love that they added the red blood. So I think the paint's a 5 out of 5. I am really impressed. Sculpt, like we talked about, I love the Easter egg in the back, how you have all that. You still see a ton of the detail in the badge and the bullet holes and the uniform, the texture in that. I think the sculpt's a 5 out of 5 on this one. I don't know if I'd feel the same way on the other one because you could probably see more detail with the paint, but this one definitely a 5 out of 5. So value. Nowadays, life-size busts go for generally anywhere from $800 to $4,000. This is incredibly cheap comparatively. So as I said, you essentially have 4 different options. You have this version right here. This is the deluxe liquid metal version. This is $579, and they made right around the same amount. They made 572 of these. If you wanted to get this without the hand and the finger, it's $500, and I believe they made a couple thousand of those. Now, if you wanted the painted versions, they had a much higher edition size, so apparently they think they're going to sell more of those. Similar price points, but higher edition sizes. So when we talk about value, you know, if it's a 3 out of 5, a 3 out of 5 on my scale is good. That means you get what you pay for. I don't think you'll be able to get your money back on this because it took them a long time to sell out the T800s, even though those were absolutely amazing. I think there's a large edition size of this, but there's not that big of a Terminator collector community. However, with that being said, the price point might make others who normally aren't into Terminator pull the trigger on this. So for now, the value is a 3 out of 5. It's not bad, it's not good, but I don't think this kind of concept will be beat for a long time. I have owned a custom life-size bust of T1000 that was pretty cool, but again, it costs twice as much. And then Queen Studios has one that I'm not a fan of that costs about 4 times as much. So in my opinion, this is definitely the way to go. Again, if you want to pick it up, there are links in the description to buy directly from Pure Arts or from Sideshow Collectibles. Now, does this have the X Factor? You know, I just got back from a 10-day trip, and I had a bunch of statues to open. I was not super excited about this compared to some of the others, but it is the first one I opened, and now I think it's going to be hard to beat. I do think this has the X Factor, and I think when I see it on my wall, it's going to solidify that as well. I'm a big fan. I think Pure Arts knocked it out of the park again. I was pleasantly surprised with that T800 for sure. This one I like even better, which shocks me even more. But I'm a big fan. Let me know, which one do you like better, T800 or this one? Because every comment enters you into a chance to win a statue, and we're getting really close to that next giveaway mark. We will be giving all of these statues away, plus additional ones at every 5,000 subscriber milestone. To win one of these statues, all you have to do is make sure you've liked this video, you've subscribed to the channel, you've hit that bell notification, and then just drop a comment below. Every 5,000 subscriber milestone, we are going to do a random drawing and pick a random comment and give one of these statues away, plus some additional ones I'm not showing right now. The more videos you comment on, the higher your chances are to win. Hey, I really appreciate you guys watching. Pure Arts, fantastic job on this. So excited to have it. Again, check out the links in the description. If you like stuff like this, subscribe to the channel. At the very least, give me a like. It's free, easy, and it really helps me. That's all I got. Should do some special CGI James Cameron stuff, but I'm not gonna.